Application Chizumba LLC doing business as Felipe's Taqueria, Thomas Brush manager, holder of a common vittler license at 21 Brattle Street, has applied for a new all alcoholic beverages restaurant license at said address. Current approved common vittler hours are 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. 7 days per week.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Attorney Kevin Crane, K-E-V-I-N-C-R-A-N-E. I represent the petitioner. To my left is Thomas Brush, B-R-U-S-H, and to my right is Felipe Herrera, H-E-R-R-E-R-A. And he's the Felipe of Felipe's Taqueria. First of all, administratively, I have my affidavit and green cards. Madam Chair, as you know, we've been before you before a couple of times and obtained a certificate of common victual license for the premises over the past few months. The previous occupant at the premises was Bertucci's Restaurant, who vacated in August of 2013. My client has performed extensive renovations on the site. I was in there Tuesday, actually, and it was striking to me what he's done on the inside and at the ready deck in comparison to what had been there before. As you know, we had to wait a number of months before we could apply for any sort of pouring license, in that the Bertucci's license was still attached to the premises, and the two licenses could not be attached to the same premises, even though we had control of the premises. As far as my client's history in the industry, he has operated his establishment on Auburn Street for 10 years. Vacated last March. He also was the manager of record at Flat Caddies, which is a couple of doors down from this particular location, which I believe is the only malt beverage only pouring license in the city. He's been the manager of record here since it opened, probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more. He's also been manager of record at a number of restaurants that he previously owned in New Orleans. He is not owner of any of those restaurants anymore, but he was a manager of record, all alcoholic licenses, and never had any disciplinary problems with them. So he has been under the jurisdiction of this board for at least 10 years on Auburn Street with his common victual license, and Flat Caddies for a number of other years. As far as this particular location goes, the floor plans which he submitted are the same floor plans that were submitted in conjunction with the common victual application. Calls for 62 seats on the first floor, which includes bar seating of 20 seats, 48-seat new mezzanine section, and 60 seats on the seasonal roof deck, which includes 12 bar seats.
How many on the roof?
60, which includes the 12 bar seats on the deck. Also, there will be 12 outside seats on the sidewalk, similar to what Bertucci's previously had. Although the plans that we submitted in conjunction with this application and the common victuals application clearly showed that the roof deck has seats. There seems to have been some question about whether there were going to be seats up there and just have bar rails. Now, we'll talk at much greater length about bar rails as we go along. But I do want to submit for the record renderings regarding the additional renderings regarding the roof, which show in greater detail the existence of the seats.
So you're saying Bertucci did in fact operate the seats on the roof?
No, they did not.
Oh, they did not.
No, no, the roof aspect of the operation, Commissioner, is totally real. As you can see from the renderings, there are seats there on both of them. The seats have not been put there yet, and maybe that's why you get this fantasy of bar rails. The construction is ongoing up there. We're going to have panels covering where the seats are, and also there will be an 8-foot barrier in the area closest to the abutting office building, which will hopefully deaden some of the noise issues. As far as the menu is concerned, I'll submit another set of the menus, but it's the same ones that have been submitted before. You want them? You think you have them, so it's the same menu. It's the same menu that Felipe has operated on for the last 10 years. We anticipate that 15% of the sales will be associated with malt beverage, wine, and all alcohol, and that half would be half of that 15% would be wine and beer sales, and the other half all liquor sales. I would emphasize to the board that on entertainment, we are only requesting 2 TV sets and music at or below conversational level. That is a dentist's office standard in my mind. As far as the 2 TV sets, one will be on the first floor and one will be on the second floor. The one on the second floor won't be there all the time. There will be no TV set on the roof deck.
Second floor is what you referred to earlier, Counsel, as mezzanine.
Mezzanine, that's correct, Chief. So that, again, a concern about noise, with the TV sets there, I think that's more of a drinking atmosphere, but there won't be any TV set up on the deck. As far as the criteria that the board requires on a petition such as this, the first factor is whether existing licenses that are inactive have been pursued. I spoke with the broker now that has the Man Ray license, and I spoke with the attorney that represents the Western Front. Those 2 licenses are both asking price in excess of $200,000. Tommy Doyle's, which is on Winthrop Street, is also inactive, but the landlord there wants to preserve that license as best he can for that site. And I also spoke with the proprietor of Hi-Fi Pizza, and again, the price there on that one is in excess of $100,000, and that's only a beer and wine license. And the capacity attached to that license is only 50 seats. If we had to pay for a license, the cost would go up. My client's trying to keep within his business model prices moderate. He's been very successful at doing that, and he's had a successful business. He wants to keep it affordable. He's not the deep pocket operator that could go out and purchase a license based on availability of credit. So it really is a small operation. It's literally, it's mom and pop, but it's common for living. The second criteria is whether there's a need for this type of establishment. First of all, as far as the roof deck is concerned, the only other roof decks that I'm aware of in Harvard Square, the Daedalus restaurant, which is on the western end of the square, and also the nightclub there, that Sinclair place. I have never been in there, but it abuts our premises. And those are the only two roof decks that are in Harvard Square. This is a Mexican-style restaurant, and based on the present business that we're doing in the Harvard Square, it would seem that there would be a continuing need for this type of establishment. At its present location, as you might be aware, they're out the door. And Madam Chair, I know that you in the past have asked my clients in a situation like this whether beer and wine versus alcohol. And I think it's a very good question. And in anticipation of that, I would submit that with a Mexican restaurant, people think of margaritas. As far as the business model is concerned, we really would need the all alcohol to supply a margarita, which is the full Mexican-style restaurant experience. The final comment I want to make on need is I want to reference the existing regulations of this board. And under Addendum D, subparagraph 5, which is still a pertinent regulation, and this Addendum D pertains to the written policy on liquor and entertainment licenses in Harvard Square, Central Square, and Massachusetts Avenue between such squares. And subparagraph 5 states, applications for one-day licenses and warm weather outdoor extensions of premises shall generally be reviewed in an ordinary fashion and not with rigorous searching and detailed examination. The Commission acknowledges that one-day liquor and entertainment licenses and seasonal outdoor extensions of premises generally fulfill an extraordinary public need not otherwise fulfilled. So it's the policy of this board that that roof decks satisfy an extraordinary public need. As far as the third factor, which is that there'll be no harm, I think my client's history as far as his capacity of an operator would go toward the point of no harm. And as far as benefit goes, again, it would be an expansion of a small business supplying a positive economic development. Just as my previous case, counsel referred to, it is an issue that I think that the board should take into consideration. As far as this public support, I do have a set of petitions here of names signed that would support what's been in the restaurant for the past month or so, and I would like to submit that. I believe there's approximately 700 signatures to the petitions. I believe there are also probably some letters of support in the record. I'll leave that to the executive director or
She took my phone.
oh,
I'm going to give it to you in 1 second. I just had a question.
Counsel, the roof deck, what is the distance, the setback from the parapet that's in front of the building? I was wondering roughly.
I would say approximately 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet.
So you know visual from the street of this deck whatsoever, really?
No, you can, not from the street, no. And if you get way back, there's a little triangle park that's over by Citizens Bank. If you get further back, you can get perspective, but there's a perimeter, very 42-inch high wall around it. And we did go over that at great length with the Historical Commission in getting that approval.
And the exits, there are 2 exits from the roof deck, correct?
Yes.
One down the interior stairs, is it? And one into the rear of the building, or?
That is correct. There's a fire escape, or a fire escape being installed.
Because that doesn't exist today.
It's in the process. It'll be
Okay.
completed by next Wednesday.
And when those people get to the base of that stair, there is clear access for them to egress the area. They're not boxed in by another chain link fence or
No,
other appurtenances down there. So.
it's completely open lot. And then there's a street that goes right to Church Street.
Okay. So they'd have clear access to get
Yes.
from the building.
Yes.
Thank you. And there is no cooking equipment on the roof deck, or is there?
None whatsoever.
Is there any, are any of these buildings required to have fire protection up top in terms of just the alarm system, just the head end, or?
This has pull stations up there. There are siren and warning subs, outdoor ones. One on the exit going downstairs, one on just before you go through the corridor to take the fire escape downstairs.
Okay.
And there's also one in, there's a fully accessible elevator going to the roof, which also has a pull station inside there as well. Emergency lighting, everything, all the requirements for fire safety.
So we didn't talk about the rooftop during the CV license application.
Excuse me?
We didn't talk about the rooftop, the proposal of rooftop when you were here for the CV license.
Yes.
Did we talk about that?
Yeah. We had two stages, Mr. Christian. The first one included the roof deck, where we had an issue with handicapped access.
Yeah.
And then, once that got resolved, the elevator was constructed. We came back to ask the CV to be extended to the roof deck.
So we already approved the rooftop.
You've already approved the rooftop.
The roof deck has been approved
Okay.
for food, yes.
Okay.
As
And
far
you're
as,
not going to have any entertainment, I'm sorry, Counsel, you're not going to have any entertainment, no TVs on the roof deck, no music?
there'll be music at or below conversation level.
I'm sorry, and you were going to say before.
Just as far as the support goes, I believe that there are letters in there from Councilor Chung, maybe in addition to Councilor Cologne's previous comments. I believe Frank Kramer and Dan Hogan from Passam Restaurant, rank and file members of the Business Association, submitted letters. I believe Denise Gilson also submitted a letter of support. And just finally on the public support issue, again, I refer you to the regulation regarding overriding the cap, and it would be for so-called mom-and-pop operations, or those catering to food-oriented, non-bar or non-entertainment operations. Again, I believe that my client suits that standard to a T. Finally, Madam Chair, I'd like to respond to some of the points that Mr. DiGiovanni submitted in his letter. Mr. DiGiovanni and I have been discussing these issues over the past 2 weeks or so. In his letter, he refers to the bar rails, and he has pictures attached to his letter of these bar rails. They are totally out of cloth. He's a victim of misinformation or deliberate confusion on the bar rails. We have not put the seats in yet. The construction's not finished. When the seats go in, there'll then be walls underneath these railings. Yes, if you looked at them now, you might say, is someone going to stand in it? They're not. We've always had the seats presented in any plans. So there's no bar rail. It's beyond the pale with me as far as not understanding that we're not going to have bar rails. I know what he's talking about. People standing up with a drink. It's not going to be there. As far as the bar is concerned, it's a 12-seat bar. He says it's different from Daedalus and different from Sinclair because those two locations don't have the bar out on the roof deck. I would submit to you that those are differences without substantive distinctions. The Daedalus deck, which I'm quite familiar with, the bar is just inside the door to the deck. I don't know where the bar is in the Sinclair, but we need a service point. It's for safety and circulation. But having a 12-seat bar up there presents a service point where you can have control over the customers on the roof deck. So I don't think there's any particular problem with having a 12-seat bar out on the roof. Whereas, what would it be different if it was just inside a door someplace? Out there, it would be much better as far as a control point. Also, you'll be able to supply beverage to people without going up and down stairs. Again, it's going to be at or below conversation level. There's going to be an 8-foot petition towards Mr. DiGiovanni's building, which will hopefully also deaden the noise. Also, it's a little unusual to find a noise situation where it's an office. If it was residential, I would be much more sensitive about what could happen. But it's an office operation. Mr. DiGiovanni says that these new tenants want 24/7, 365. I don't know. My office building's kitty corner to this building, and it's a 5-story office building. The place is empty at 6 o'clock. Having said that, I don't mean to diminish his concerns. And he said in his letter at the end, most importantly, that my client is aware and sensitive of the surrounding businesses. My client has been impressed with these particular issues as far as noise that might come out of the roof of it, and other issues as well. And if there is a problem, this board maintains jurisdiction of any particular issues which might arise. But my client certainly acknowledges the concerns, and he's very well impressed with the concerns of the abutters as far as noise is concerned. As far as noise is concerned, also, you have the Sinclair, which I believe is a tenant of Mr. DiGiovanni. And although they did a lot of work, I know, on preventing and addressing the noise issue within the building, it's still a nightclub. You walk down Straight Street at night, people coming out of the nightclub, they're generating noise, and lots of it. So with that, if there are any questions that we could answer, we'd like to try and do so.
Do you plan on having a kind of a canopy or something over this seating area at some point? I see the lights strung across and so forth. Is the intention to cover that at any point, or is that going to be remain open?
No, I'd like to keep it open, and the only idea might be some cloth or umbrellas or something to maybe diffuse the sunlight, direct sun, but there are no plans to put any type of permanent roof or barrier over it at all. And the idea, even over this service or bar area, maybe have some vines or plants, but the idea is to keep it open. That particular area has just a full view. It's a full open view, almost 300 degrees. The sun comes up here, and I really want to preserve that openness of the roof deck.
How does the food service? I assume the food service truck is the first floor.
Yes, that is correct.
And how do they get out serve food to the mezzanine or the roof deck?
All the food is served. There are 2 stairs. One that goes to the mezzanine, from the mezzanine up to it, and that's how the food will be brought up. We also have an elevator. If there was a large group or quite a bit of food, we would put a cart in the elevator on the first floor and bring it up to the 3rd floor. It's all on grade, so you can come right out of the elevator to service the deck.
Is this the same stairwell that the patron used to gain access to the roof deck?
Yes, it is.
And I assume this is a fairly wide.
It's quite wide, yeah. I think it's a full 48 inches. It's not a 30, it's a full 48 inch. It has plenty of room for traffic going in both directions.
Okay.
What current alcohol licenses does your client currently have in his name? Is it all alcohol now, or?
No, it's the only one in his name now is Flat Caddies, which is a couple of doors down from this location. And it's just a malt beverage license. I believe it's the only one in the city that's just malt.
It's just malt, it's
Just
not wine and
not
malt?
wine. Evidently, wine doesn't go with burgers, although the executive director, I know, disagrees with me on that one. I don't have an opinion on it. That's
There's also a big bump in the fee. And the fees drop at showing malt only, going to malt and wine. There's a pretty big bump in the fees as well.
So just malt only is the only one that you have?
That's right.
Can you tell me the date that the CV was approved on, and then the separate date that the roof was approved on?
I thought that was all at the same time.
thought it was two separate, was it two
Two
separate?
separate hearings.
Two
The first one was probably in January, and the second one, I believe, was in August.
The seating capacity of the roof again?
Excuse me?
Seating capacity of the roof is what?
60.
And the outside seats are seasonal on the public property down there,
That's correct.
permitted by public works.
Yes, yes.
And it's total about 10?
12.
12. So this way, so the first floor is 62, the mezzanine is 48? Or you got one more?
Yes, that's right.
And the roof is 60.
That's correct.
So it's safe to assume, though, that we started getting noise complaints and stuff that you respond accordingly?
Absolutely. Leave back eye on premises all the time.
So obviously, in terms of the 21 foot requirement, with this number again, you're going to have to do the crowd manager for this particular location all times. So is the kitchen work being completely done in this renovation?
Yes, it was totally all brand new, everything, the hoods, Ansel, fire, and the sprinkler system, the existing sprinkler system has all been gone over and, updated, and we had to reroute some of the heads just to get, we have 100% coverage. We've fully sprinkled 100%.
The backgrounds were all in order as well.
Just so I can go back, in terms of the bar that's on the roof, what's the seating capacity of that?
Well,
What I'm struggling with right now, I think may have less to do with you, counsel, probably more to do with my team, my office. So when this was approved, back in roughly August for the roof, what was the seating capacity when it was approved back in
it
August?
was the same.
Same seating capacity.
No, it was just for the CV.
Do you have an idea as to when you hope to open?
3 weeks. Since the fire escape gets fully installed, that's really the last major piece of the construction, and the rest of it is just some finishing. But all the mechanical and air conditioning and the elevator was a huge project getting that installed and built, and all the floors been finished. So really, right now, it's just but I would anticipate 3 weeks.
No other questions?
Any other questions? Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard in this matter? Sure, if you could please come forward. I'd like to ask ask you to come on this side, please?
Sure.
Sorry, it just makes it easier for
Yeah.
for to hear you.
Fair enough.
If you could please identify yourself for the records.
Sure. My name is Phil Cunningham, P-H-I-L. Last name is C-U-N-N. I-N-G-H-A-M.
And please feel free to bring a chair up if you'd like to sit.
I'm fine standing up. So I work at Trinity Property Management.
What did?
Trinity Property Management. And I'm responsible for leasing and management of 50 Church Street, which is the building which is directly once. I think we have a letter on record expressing our concerns, so I will attempt to make my comments brief. John would like to be here. He had a conflict. So, we have two primary concerns. The first has been identified, which is it's the design of it. And so we can talk about fantasy drake rails, but A, I look out my window and they're built there. Two, if you look on the plan that I've seen, they're labeled drake rails. So that doesn't, in my world, enter into the realm of fantasy. If we can go and touch and feel it, and it's labeled as such on a plan, that strikes me as pretty real. And with respect to the seating that's there, what I guess I have a challenge with is, why are there drink rails if there's seating there? What is the purpose of the drink rails in the current floor plan configuration? And let's be clear, we're all for outdoor dining. This isn't an issue of objecting to outdoor dining per se. As was indicated, we have an outdoor patio and roof deck at the Sinclair. We were supporters of the database license when it came up a handful of years ago. We are on record supporting outdoor dining. But our sense is that, with the configuration as it currently is, that this is more a bar atmosphere than an outdoor seating atmosphere. I haven't seen what you're looking at, so I don't know what that is, but for me it's difficult to reconcile. No other roof deck patio, as far as I know, in Cambridge, and certainly not Harvard Square, has a bar on it. And I disagree. I actually think that's a material difference from the Sinclair roof deck and the database roof deck. I think it creates a different atmosphere. It makes me think of a place that I used to go to back in my younger day in Boston, where it was a similar setup like this. And after a certain hour, there were tables and seats and everywhere else. There was a bar. People went up there to drink. That was the primary purpose of it. So the design for us is troublesome. The second concern, which would be the case whether it's just seating or its current configuration, although it's exacerbated by the current configuration, because I think there's a greater potential for it to become a problem, is ambient music, and I think and background noise. And I think that operators tend to underappreciate how much of a nuisance that can be for office tenants. And you can see the roof deck was built directly below approximately 15,000 square feet of office space. So, from my perspective, having no ambient music there until 8 p.m. at night doesn't strike me as a big ask. I don't think people are going to not go to the roof deck at Felipe's because there's no background music. So, and I think to the extent that it wants to be played later at night, that it be played, played at conversation level, at a very low decibel. So those are our two concerns: the design, in the sense that it's going to be a more bar drinking atmosphere, and that creates a level of noise that will become a nuisance for our office tenants who are within spitting distance of the space, and then just general ambient noise until 8 p.m. With all that being said, if the commission in its discretion decides that moving forward with the license in any capacity is a prudent path, our concern is that in a world where there's a violation and a cure, and a violation and a cure, and a violation and a cure, we get calls from tenants complaining about that, and our credibility starts to go down, and then the space starts to get a reputation, and then it becomes unleasable, and then we've been done, irreparable harm. So, to the extent that there's any license issued in any form, that I express those concerns here clearly and state for the record the challenges of remedying it and how that gets done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Any questions?
Can I respond to that?
Hold on one
Oh,
second.
just someone else.
One second. I think we have someone else who wants to speak.
Okay.
Hi, yes. My name is Gary Doyle. I'm one of the owners.
Gary, spell your first and last name.
Gary, G-A-R-Y,
And if I can get you to speak up.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I am here as one of the owners of the property and just want
Owners of which property, so?
of the property.
Okay.
We have the land. Where I am one of the landowners. And just want this group to understand how proud we are of Tom and what he's done with the piece of property that was Bertucci's and was a mess and is now been turned into something that the square can be very proud of, is to be a superb restaurant. And we look forward to 20 years with his tenancy and that space.
Great. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this? Counsel?
Violation and pure speculation. Trying to make something out of cloth. What if the Sinclair, what if the Beat Hotel, they have violations incurred? Same problem. You got to look to the history of the operator. They haven't had any violations. Well, they've been in business in Harvard Square for over 10 years. They've had no need to cure. So throwing that out there is a little bit of mud against the wall. As far as the drink rails go, I would like to know what plan that gentleman refers to, and he said that it was specifically designated as a drink rail. Any plan that I have submitted, my client submitted to this board, shows the chairs.
Is there a question as to whether or not it was labeled drink rail? Because I have that plan with me.
You can submit it through me, please.
I believe it's attached
Is it attached to the back of the letter, the picture?
So this is the plan that I have.
I do, it's hard to see.
So you can see.
Okay, nope, I can see.
Do you see? So my question is this, which is,
Do you mind if I?
no, mark it up, okay. So my question is this, which is, my understanding is that this is labeled as a drink rail. This plan is actually, again, this is the most recent plan, but this is sort of labeled as a drink rail here. This actually looks like a drink rail, although it's not labeled as such. And my question is this: why is there a need for a drink rail here if there's seating here? I don't understand that. What's the purpose of having a drink rail here if there's seating here? Same here. Same here. Why would you have a drink rail there?
Without even looking at the plan, I think Mr. Brush can explain that.
I just want to, I'll say, there are,
Just like some stuff in the back.
Oh, no, I'll make sure you get it back.
Okay.
the perimeter of this space and of this deck, this is elevated, it's about 3 or 4 feet off of the roof. And that's to enable, to protect the actual roof. And if the roof needs to be resurfaced or covered, so there is a, if you walked off the deck, you would drop down about 3 feet. So in building a railing, we really wanted to create some depth to it, number one, and some substance to it. And also, in terms of cable service there, I'm talking about clearing plates, whatever, any kind of surfaces that we can create up there we're doing. But this was not designed as a bar rail. it's perhaps the architect at one point in one version of this, and I'm not sure what version of the plans this is right here, but we certainly are not operating this as a watering hole bar up on the roof. Felipe's has always been about the food. All of my restaurants are less than 15% or less of sales or alcohol. We're about the food, and this is anyone who is up on the deck is eating and drinking. They're not just, we are not a bar. We don't operate as a bar. And when we sell alcohol, we're selling food.
So are those railings already installed on the deck?
Yeah, there are railings up there.
And what's the contour on the top of that railing? Is it flat?
There's a
and
flat,
wide enough?
There's a flat surface up there. If you wanted to set something down there, you could. But just because there is a flat surface on top of the railing doesn't mean that and if you look at the seating plan, there is not, we've got tables next to sections of the railing. But certainly people who go up on the deck, and even people sitting down, may want to stand up and take, I mean, it's a spectacular view. It's a very wide open area, and there's no reason that someone isn't going to be able to walk around. But the seating and the food and the service is all done at the tables. There is no service at a bar rail.
So your total capacity on the roof is 72? You would
60.
60. Well, 60 per
60.
No, the 12 is included. It's 12 at the
Okay.
bar and 48 seats.
So you would never have more than 60 people on the roof at any given
That's
time?
correct. That's correct.
So you wouldn't allow people to gather and to enjoy the view by staying around
Well,
the rails and stuff
The
like that?
people who are up there who are eating,
But I mean, they have
they want to come up,
designated seating.
they walk up on the deck, they love to see where am I, and take a look. So certainly there's going to be circulation around the perimeter. But one of the reasons is to keep that depth, is to really make it more of a barrier also. And as I said, it's a 4-foot drop if you were to step up. There's bars that go across between the posts. There's bars every 4 inches so someone can't slip through it, but there's still visibility through it. And again, how that roof is operating, I don't care if it's seats or it's how the owner operates his business. That's really ultimately, you could have just tables up there. Forget bar rails if you want to call them bar rails. And if people want to sit down at tables and drink and party, they're going to do that. It depends on how you operate your business. And Felipe and I have absolutely no intention, and the other restaurants that we've operated, it just doesn't happen. It's not how we run our business, and it will never happen.
So do you understand the concern now is that we're looking at these plans? Lord, I have my glasses on and this is a challenge. It's dated December 20th, 2013, that I see at least 2 spaces that it's identified as wood railings with drink rail.
I see that.
Just have to take.
I think at various points the architects have, this plan has been going on for 7 or 8 months. And that is not to say that at some point the designer on here is putting stuff around and putting railings around there. And he may have referred to it as bar rail on there, I'm not saying it, but the way we have set up the seating and applied and set up the license, that's not what we're doing. This was never designed to have this thing be an open bar up on the roof.
First of all, as far as this plan is concerned, it shows the seats, which would prevent anyone from going standing on the rail. As Tom says, this was a working plan, December 2013. This was before anything was ever submitted to this particular board, and the plans that we've submitted to this board have never indicated that it's a drink rail. The seats are there. And the seats on the plan that we submitted to you, quite frankly, are a little bit different. The setup is a little bit different than what this working plan has been, wherever we got it from, has been forwarded tonight.
There are 2 complete revisions on the plans that were done after the mistake. I mean, totally complete. One, including the elevator that was put in because there were no elevators. But we didn't have the exact vision that we've had. There have been revisions on it. So just because it has this, and
This plan shows 15 seats at the bar.
yeah, this has more seating on it.
But this is a picture of what it looks like in terms of
That is correct. Yes, that's an accurate
That's the way
picture.
it
Yes, that's right.
That's the way it looks today, Commissioner, but they're in the seats. When you put the seats on, you can't get access to
No,
the
but
rail.
I think what's got us concerned is the width of
Right.
this bar, around the deck.
Right.
How it's going to be used.
That's right.
So there won't be counter seats sitting there.
No.
People will be served at those?
The only stools that are bar height are at the bar. That's it. There are no other bar stools anywhere. Look, all the other seating is at normal dining height, which is
So
30
that's just the 12 at that main.
That's correct.
Just a final comment on what Mr. Cunningham said. My client would be willing to, on the compensation level, at or below compensation level on the deck, to have it not apply until 8 o'clock. It's reverse of what we usually try to do because of being an office.
Well, that's right. Yeah. What's interesting, those are unoperable, sealed, insulated windows around the building. I mean, there's absolutely no way. It's a brick building with sealed, insulated windows. Any sound that wouldn't be any louder than the other operating ventilation equipment that's on the roof that's existing right now. I mean, I really don't feel the music that we would play at or below conversation level would be no louder than the ambient noise that you're getting from all the rooftop equipment that exists up on the roof currently.
Yeah, I can understand that perception, but in reality, it's quite different. You can get a fair amount of noise bleed through there.
So, Counsel, if I heard you correctly, you said you'd be willing to change that timing in terms of when the ambient music would be played?
Yeah, it wouldn't be played until 8 o'clock. Only after 8 o'clock.
Do you already have a sound system purchased for that? Is it already installed?
I have not wired speakers up to that area. The rest of the restaurant is, but I have not hooked up the speakers up to that area. And these are, by the way, these are 70 volt. This is not a powerful amp. It's a very, very strictly listening level. It's background music is all. And I would only have 2 speakers on the entire deck, and that's it. Just 2 round, or like 8-inch round. It would be on the corners of the, service or bar area, and that's it. And directly across from those is an 8-foot wall, partition between, which is probably about 12 feet off of Trinity's building. So there's an actual wood barrier between the two, which I would think would do a lot to also soften it. And again, if there were any kind of a problem, if my neighbors complained to me, I'm the first guy in the world, turn it off. I mean, I'm not out. I'm a good neighbor, and I would comply. I'm not looking to defend my neighbors.
So if I understand what you're saying, you are going to police this area to make sure it doesn't become exclusively a bar, hangout area.
Absolutely. This area will be attended to 100% of the time. This is, which is one of the reasons I know that Mr. Cunningham indicated that Douglas and the Sinclair don't have bars, but they are on the same level. There's no, you don't have to go up a set of stairs to get to that area. They're on the same level as their dining room and or bar. This is on a whole separate level. We have to have a service area from which to operate and to supervise and oversee everything going up on the deck. And there will not be a moment that deck is open that we don't have staff up there and, managers up there actually regulating what's going on up there.
You said earlier that your ratio of food to alcohol is generally 85-15.
15. So
I'm sorry, who did that?
The ratio of food service to alcohol is 85% food to approximately 15.
There are a number of restaurants where it can be high as 50%. You'll have almost a 50-50. But Felipe's has been, and even those venues that were opened up down in New Orleans, our ratio of liquor to food sales is 15%, right around 50% average between all the restaurants.
And again, no cooking outside or anything like that. No candlelight, no lights hanging. Lights, but no candlelight, no open flame.
Say no complaints.
Any other questions?
For the record, as Mr. Crane indicated, we do have a letter in support from Councilor Chung saying that for over 10 years, Felipe has been servicing the city of Cambridge citizens and others at its former now Auburn Street location. Operation of the former site was without incident or any problems. They've been an outstanding operator, and he thinks that this would fulfill an unmet public need without any harm. There is also a letter from Ms. Jolson of the Harvesburg Business Association, and also in support of the application. Frank Kramer, who says he is also in support, as a resident of Cambridge who was actively involved in city affairs and a former business owner in Harvard Square. I'm writing to express my support for this application. As a hands-on owner and operator of flat patties on Brattle Street and Felipe's on Mount Auburn Street for many years, Tom has already demonstrated his integrity and his ability to successfully run locally owned businesses that contribute positively to the life of Harvard Square and the city. And also from Dan Hogan, who is the executive director at Haas. He says he has deep concern about how Harvard Square develops and would only give a positive recommendation to a business that I thought would be a positive force for the city of Cambridge. I've known Tom for many years. I frequent in the restaurant he currently owns many times, Felipe's at its old location, Flat Patties on Brattle, and Crema Cafe also on Brattle. Tom runs a tight ship. He pays attention to detail and cares about safety and operating within the rules and regulations that the city has adopted. A quick tour of his kitchen will demonstrate the care is taken with the preparation and servicing of food. The Felipe's that Mr. Brush is developing will be a valuable addition to the square. Its roof deck view of the square will give many customers a new appreciation for the square. And that's all I have.
Any other questions before I make a motion?
No questions.
So based on the testimony that I've heard today, and the fact that Mr. Brush only has one other license in his name, and that being a malt only, which is the only issue, I would make a motion that we approve the application for Shazunga LLC doing business as Felipe's Taqueria and Tom Brush manager, holder of a CV at 21 Brattle Street for an all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license at 21 Brattle, with the hours as previously approved under the CV license, which was 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Is that correct? 7 days a week. With the outside patio only playing below conversation music from 8 p.m. And I'd actually probably, there's no residential, correct, right through there. So 8 p.m. until closing. With a 6-month review, because I'd like to be able to have you come back before the board in the event that there are issues with your abutters. I'd like to be able to hear about them. And in the meantime, if there are issues with the abutters, if I do get a second, this is approved. If there are issues with the abutter, I would expect you to be a good neighbor and try to work it out before coming here. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.